rip off the blindfold, and I'm in a new world. I'm in a fourth dimension world. I can see everything in the room. I can see myself, see my hands, see the people. I know where I'm at. I know what's going on, but I'm in a new world, whole new world. And I puke a couple times then. And I'm struggling. Like, I feel like my brain's starting to melt down, and I feel like I'm about to die in this world. And this is what I call the spirit world. So it's a whole new world that we just can't see, and it's there. It's real. It's real. And then I hear this voice in the back of my head that says, "Go jump off the balcony." We were on the third level of a 3-story house.
This episode of the 38 Challenge podcast is with Travis Fishburn. Travis spent nearly 9 years as a Navy SEAL, now an entrepreneur and a mental health advocate. Travis, thank you very much for coming on today, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I know we had a very brief discussion on just your story, and definitely wanted to have you on and just talk about the unique experiences you've had and your view on vulnerability and seeking help. So excited to jump into the conversation, man. Why don't you start by telling us, why you decided to become a Navy SEAL and how that journey began?
So from a young age, I always loved the military, loved all the branches, loved tanks and jets and guns and every weapon you can imagine. So my desire to be in the military started from a young age, and then it shifted focus specifically to a SEAL when my dad bought me a book about them. And then after that, I was hooked, bought all the books, all the fitness videos, everything you could think of. But then what really solidified me wanting to join the military and go SEALs is when 9/11 happened. I was in my freshman year of college at Boise State. That happened. And my mindset from finishing college at that point shifted to, I need to join the military or join the Navy as soon as possible.
So once you decided to, after 9/11, you decided to make that switch and that decision, what did that process look like? Did you get immediately into training, or, what did that look like?
I was still training full time, but I was working full time and going to school full time. So training was kind of splitting, a third of the way there. But after that, I stopped going to school and just worked and trained full time for about another year and a half, maybe 2 years, just training full time. So I waited a little bit before I went in because I wanted to ensure my training was up to par. I had a pretty good idea of how intense it was and what the standards were. So I wanted to ensure at least my physical capabilities were above standards and that I wouldn't have any issues going through the training.
Makes sense. What did that training regime look like?
I trained 7 days a week, generally 2 cardiovascular training a day. So that would be swimming and running, or biking and running, or combination of that. So doing a lot of triathlons. So triathlon training, then weightlifting training on top of that per day. And then I would mix in like just calisthenics, body PT, that type of working out too. So that was every day, swim team in the morning, running or biking at night, and then hitting the gym as well after that. So it was full time.
Yeah, man, intense. So can you talk a little bit about obviously you had a long career, but can you kind of give us the highlights of your almost 9 years as a SEAL?
Sure. Did a couple of platoons at SEAL Team 7. So that was fantastic. Deployed twice to Iraq. Really good times, great dudes. Intense training. The lifestyle was incredible, but also it can get the best of you in many different aspects in life. But that whole lifestyle, being a frogman, was just incredible, truly amazing. And then I shifted from the teams to shore duty and became an instructor at first phase. And that too was incredible. It was just a whole different ball game. Teaching these new kids coming in to be SEALs and frogmen. And at first phase, we were in charge of Hell Week. So we had the majority of the quitters during our phase. So you got to see a lot, but it was very rewarding as well.
Absolutely. Can you kind of talk about that lifestyle a little bit more, that frogman lifestyle?
Sure. You work hard, play hard. Especially if you're a single guy. So during the times we were traveling a lot around the country and doing these super intense training trips, getting some top quality training, pushing the envelope hard, towing that line. And then on the other end of that, come the weekends or your time off, you partied pretty hard. You went out with your boys and just got after it. So you start burning that candle at both ends. As a young frogman, it didn't really bother me or whatnot, but as you get older, it kind of catches up to you a bit. Mm-hmm. But just turning and burning nonstop, it's fun, it's exciting, but if you let it get away from you, you can start making some mistakes or tripping up or just getting burnt out in general.
Yeah. Did you experience that burnout?
Not really. Not the burnout when I was at the team. I started feeling a little bit of burnout because of politics once I was an instructor. That got to me a little bit. But otherwise, the lifestyle of the teams and whatnot never did, no.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wanted to, talk about your military career a little bit, and especially that lifestyle because, as you and I talked about, it seems like that lifestyle kind of can sometimes carry with you after you transition out, right? But before we go into your kind of mental health testimony, I'm curious, what does vulnerability mean to you?
It means showing, under your scales. It means showing that weak spot where you're vulnerable, and that can mean like your emotions, your intelligence. In the teams, that could be like maybe you're not the best shooter, maybe you're not the best runner. So you're vulnerable by showing your weak side by saying, "Hey, I need some help with this," or "Hey, I don't understand this." Not everyone can be, the best at everything in all aspects of life, especially that transition. And maybe your mental fortitude and strength is slipping, or maybe the transition is difficult and you don't have certain set of skills for a new job or a new lifestyle. So you have to be vulnerable in order to receive the training you need, to receive the education you need, or receive the help you need. So it's kind of putting yourself out there and being willing and open to just say, "Hey, I need some help," or "Hey, I need some more understanding of something in life," whatever that may be.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think that is such an important piece, right? Because if we don't allow our weaknesses to be shown, then how do we get stronger, right? And man, so I'm super curious and I'm super excited to jump into your mental health testimony because there's a lot of different parts to it. So I guess, why don't we start as you're transitioning out of the SEALs and kind of continuing on that operator mindset while you were leaving the military?
So once I left the military, I had a very good plan in place. Everything kind of lined up. And then at the last minute, like a week before I was supposed to leave for this job, the whole job fell through. I ended up not, getting hired. So that tripped me up real quick. But then the operator mindset is like, all right, move forward. What's the next deal? So I just started finding these security gigs and this and that. And it was fun because we were doing security with Monster Energy Drink and traveling to Mexico and whatnot. But again, that was the start of my floating period. And we can dive into that a little bit more. But so I started doing these little gigs here and there, finding my next steps. And And then I landed a TV show with Discovery Channel. It was going to be called Lone Operator. And the last scene we're about to film at 3 a.m., helicopter spins up and then the helicopter crashes, kills all 3 people on board.
Oh my gosh.
Super horrible, tragic accident. So then they canceled the show from that. And I found myself kind of back in California wondering what to do. That led me to just say, okay, cool, I'll just go back to school. I wanted to get my bachelor's degree, and that was another goal I had. So kind of started that and started CrossFit at the same time. Did pretty well at that for a few years, and then continued with my schooling, which took up a lot of time, but I knew I was just stalling and floating more, as I just, briefly mentioned, meaning I didn't have my next plan. I didn't know what my next steps were. I didn't have anything to look forward to or what the future looked like, but I just used school as this floating period, saying I'd figure it out when school was done. So I kept putting it off. And then I had to face the music once I graduated, and, once again fell kind of flat on my face and didn't know where I was going or what I was doing after school.
Absolutely. So when you say floating period, was that during the time you were in school?
Yeah. I would even say, I would say my floating period slash like wandering periods, started when I left the military and pretty much continued for like the last 10 years. Up until about now, I've kind of really found my new vision. I found my new purpose. I found my new passion. But I've been on a 10-year, walkabout through life.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into that 10-year walkabout and kind of, just looking at the points where it was dark, right? And kind of how you got to those points and what those points looked like.
So it crept in over time. I think maybe my subconscious knew they were there all along, but I didn't peel back those layers and point them out for a long, long time. So, I jumped from school to, a job to this, to CrossFit, and just kept on using these little areas, to push myself forward. Meanwhile, I'm completely kind of lost and in the dark in my own world. And then eventually, that team guy lifestyle kind of took over, and I just started partying more and more, doing a decent amount of traveling and just partying and kind of, taking a step back and not addressing any of these issues, or kind of getting a plan together for my future or for what my next purpose was. And as all these things kind of fell apart, I just kind of digressed. And then all of a sudden I just feel completely lost, completely in the dark. I realize I'm, drinking way too much and I'm just wasting my life away. I'm not doing anything productive. I'm not, this tier 1 operator anymore. I've fallen off that. I don't have that. I don't really have anything. And I'm not utilizing any of the skills that I've been trained in or that God's given me. And I'm just kind of wasting my life. I wholeheartedly just feel just like wasting my life away. And then eventually I kind of hit bottom and just realized like, this is not the lifestyle I want. This is not the person I want to be. Nothing about the life I'm living is what I want. And that's when I really stepped outside of my box and, asked for help on a level that I never thought I would. And that was with Veterans Exploring Solutions. And so I went to Mexico to do some psychedelic treatments and therapy. And that was the shift for the rest of my life. And so that was January 2020. And from then till now, there's been a whole new direction in life, whole new outlook in life, whole new thought process in life. that moment was a huge pivotal moment in my life that set me on a whole different track.
Absolutely. And I want to jump into that moment. Before we do that, can you kind of explain what that rock bottom looked like for you, just in case people are there right now?
So for me, I was functional in life, meaning I could still work out, I could still hold a job, but I was drinking almost every day. And that doesn't mean, hammered drunk like on the weekends. Weekends I'd be hammered drunk, but that could mean like maybe one bottle of wine a night to two bottles of wine a night and just be normal, not normal, but like I wouldn't be extremely intoxicated or anything, but I'm drinking to the point where, one to two bottles of wine isn't really affecting me anymore. Um, so the alcohol intake increased dramatically, just overspending money on booze. And then as that continued, though, working out slowed down a lot to be less and less. Any type of hobbies I enjoyed or brought me happiness, those kind of went to the wayside too. So eventually I got to the point where I stopped doing anything I really liked and I was just drinking and hanging out.
Absolutely. Were you experiencing, depression, anxiety during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I didn't even realize I had depression or anxiety. That stuff had just been part of my life for so long that it took me my normal therapy treatments and then some other friends that are therapists to kind of step back and like talk to me about it. And then they're the ones that brought it to my life that, man, you might be like seriously depressed right now and seriously anxious. But my level of anxiety and depression and whatnot was so high that I just got used to it. It was normal for me.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started taking steps back and like addressing these issues, I realized how serious it was and like how far off the reservation I'd really walked.
Absolutely. So was it therapy that kind of allowed you to start to realize those things, or was it the moment that you had with vets? Which kind of came first?
I've done therapy throughout my whole life. So at that point, therapy was more of a band-aid. It would just help me get from week to week. And I was going through an extremely toxic breakup with one of my exes. So I really started going back to therapy to deal with those issues. And then those issues also led to, peeling back that onion and realizing I've got these other underlying issues too. One, because of my lifestyle, but two, because of, external things such as ex-girlfriends and whatnot, whatever's going on in my life. So that started it and that highlighted it. And that's when I was really starting to hit bottom and I realized I had all these other issues going on as well. So that's when I decided to do the vets treatment. And then the vets treatment opened up a whole new, path and direction.
Yeah, let's jump into the vets treatment. Obviously, what Marcus and Amber and all of them are doing is amazing, and there's just I think there's so much hope in psychedelic research, and I would love for you to jump into your experience and how that might have helped you.
I do. I mean, it changed my life, changed my path. Like I wouldn't be where I am today without that treatment for sure. And I think Marcus and Amber, their story is incredible too. And for them to be brave to try the treatment, to, work out their issues, that whole process and them that, gave them the courage and insight to start vets. And then the vets now has turned around and helped, hundreds and hundreds of people like myself. So vets, we went down to Mexico and did 2 psychedelics, did ibogaine the first night, and then 2 days later we did 5-MeO DMT. A lot of people know it as maybe the God molecule. That was heavy. That was really, really heavy. That's the drug that, I feel did the most to me and changed me. And basically that drug hit me in a way and scared me so bad that I turned back to my faith, to Christianity.
Would you Would you mind like kind of going into that experience with first ibogaine and what that was like, and then DMT? So I guess first starting with ibogaine and kind of the differences between the two experiences.
Sure. So ibogaine, we took 2 huge capsules, and then everyone was in a room. We had, the nurses, doctors, shamans, everyone hanging around. And then you take your capsules, and then you lay down on a bed and kind of just wait for it to hit you. And then it hits really hard. And for me, it helped me in some ways. Saw a lot of stuff, heard a lot of stuff. But for me, I felt like it was a pretty bad trip overall. I puked a lot, probably an 8-hour cycle. From the whole experience. It was heavy. It was really heavy. I've never experienced anything like that.
How long did it feel? How long did the 8 hours feel?
8 hours felt like, probably 15. They were pretty heavy. I mean, it hits you deep. So that was one experience. I didn't really know what to expect fully. And I took some things away from it. They give you a journal and you can write your afterthoughts and feelings and stuff. So I took some things away from it. And then you take a day off and then you do DMT. DMT is way heavy. You can do up to 3 hits. The first hit I did was like an Austin Powers trip. That's how I describe it. Like super colorful and prisms and shapes and colors and circles, and you feel super euphoric. You feel like you're floating. Your breathing like calms way down. It was a good high, and especially compared to the first, ibogaine I did, this was amazing, like super amazing. It was still heavy though. Like it felt intense, but I was still relaxed and calm. No sickness, no puking, nothing. So it was cool. It was good. And you can ask for, your second hit or third hit. And at the time I was like thinking to myself, do I want a second one? That was pretty heavy. But I feel okay. I think I'll do a second one. So I do a second one. They keep a blindfold on you. And this time you're in the room by yourself, with the doctors and shamans and nurses and whatnot. So they sit you up, you smoke your next bowl, and they laid me back down. As soon as I hit the mattress, I spring up, like sit up, rip off the blindfold, and I'm in a new world. I'm in a 4th dimension world. I can see everything in the room. I can see myself, see my hands, see the people. I know where I'm at. I know what's going on, but I'm in a new world, whole new world. And I puke a couple times then. And I'm struggling. Like I feel like my brain's starting to melt down, and I feel like I'm about to die in this world. And this is what I call the spirit world. So it's a whole new world that we just can't see, and it's there. It's real. It's real. And then I hear this voice in the back of my head that says, "Go jump off the balcony." We were on the 3rd level of a 3-story house, and this voice tells me to go jump off. So I go and do it. I go and unlock the door, and I'm about to go out and jump off and, I don't know, maybe kill myself. And that's the moment I realized the devil was speaking to me. So I said, fuck that. I turn around, and every person in that room had these black, long, droopy faces, kind of like, the best way I can describe it is like a Scream mask, the movie Scream. They all had these like demon faces. And I said, fuck that, fuck this, ripped off my shirt for whatever reason, I don't know. And then like ran downstairs, paced back and forth in the kitchen, paced back and forth in the living room. And this is me like starting to come down from it, but also realizing like what in the hell is going on and what world is this? And then after I pretty much come out of it, I sit on the ground for probably 5 to 7 minutes and just have a meltdown. Everyone just kind of let me do my thing, let me work through it. And then when I was ready, I stood back up and just kind of embraced everyone and just didn't know what the hell just happened. I mean, it was a different world and it was intense, really intense.
Were they watching you like when you went outside? Like would you have potentially jumped?
So they have security in the room too, because they let you do whatever you're going to do, up until the point, as long as you don't hurt yourself or other people. So I never fully opened the door. I unlocked it. And I think if I would have opened it, they would have stopped me and grabbed me then. Otherwise, they stay like hands off and
Right.
just kind of do it. So I never fully opened the door and went out, but I unlocked it. And that's the moment I realized, like, no, that's the devil speaking to me.
Mm-hmm. So leaving that, I mean, just wild experience, how did your life start to change from then?
So from that moment forward, I took a really hard look at my life. That after that, I think I hit a new rock bottom, but in a good sense, not in a sense of like alcohol or drugs or anything, but in a sense of being 100% open and vulnerable with myself and taking a real hard look at where my life is, who the person I am, who the person I became, and just all my faults, all my wrongdoings, everything like negative about myself. I like peeled back and like just put it before me, and that's when I know I knew I needed a huge change, and that experience like pushed me back to my faith, Christianity. But here's, I think, a part of it too. The night before I left for Mexico, my buddy Jeff called me out of the blue and asked me if I wanted to do a security gig, like some private security stuff. And I said, yeah, sure. I'll give you a call when I'm back from Mexico. And he asked me if I was going to do the treatment. I said, yep. And he just said, brother, be extremely careful. He goes, I came back to my Christian faith. And he said that you're going to experience and see shit that's not part of this world. And, you need to pray and, ask God for protection or whatnot. And at this time in my life, going to Mexico, I was not practicing my faith whatsoever. I was not, being a good person, or definitely not a good Christian by any means. So, and I didn't go to Mexico to find Jesus or God at all. That was not my intention. So it kind of like, shook me a little bit. I was just kind of a little bit weirded out by it, because I was already kind of stressed going to Mexico to do these psychedelic treatments anyways. And then he laid that on me too. I was, fuck, man, this is going to be intense. And then, I did my experience and I came back and talked to him about it too. And he was just like, yeah, man, I told you it's that world's not for us. And so I think that experience, I think him, coming back to his faith, and then me hitting that new level of like wanting change and something new in life. I just didn't know where else to turn to, but like back to my faith, back to Christianity.
Mm-hmm. What does that journey look like in your faith now?
It's good now. The first few months, first 3 to 6 months, it was still pretty rough because I was addressing all of these issues that I didn't like about myself, everything. And the more I dove into my faith, the better I felt, but also it highlighted all of the negative or bad shit I was doing, or the habits I had, or who I was. And so it was spotlighting everything I didn't like about myself. So there was a good period there where I was, not proud of the person I was. I was not happy. That, like, I think pushed me into another level of depression, but on a different level. But after a few months of changing habits, of, cutting drinking out, of focusing on me, on my mental health, spiritual health, physical health, things turned around pretty quickly. Fast forward to today, I read my Bible almost daily. I attend church weekly, or watch it online, or listen to, last week's on a podcast or something. And there's growth there. And for the rest of my life, I know that this path will be good for me, but I'll never be a perfect human. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be Jesus Christ, and I don't want to be. So the growth is always going to be there. But if I can improve like 1% a day, at the end of the year, that's 365%. And then times that over your lifetime, there's growth, more growth, more growth. And the more you shine the light on, bad parts or the negative parts of your life, those are parts where you can grow, where you can heal, where you can change. So my mindset now is like, when I do something stupid, or when I screw up or make mistakes, and I shine the light on those areas that I'm failing in, I no longer feel, like a failure, or I no longer feel that I'm worthless, or it doesn't give me depression. It now shows me, okay, cool, this is an area I can improve on. This is an area I can get better at. Like, let's dive into it. Now, how do I fix this? How do I change this? How do I grow? And I dive into those areas until I feel good about it, until I feel confident about it. And then I move forward, I move on. And that might take me a couple hours. That might take me a few days. It might take me a week. But I shine light on those, shitty areas. I grow, I heal, I change, I move, and I keep going forward. And it doesn't hold me back. It doesn't pull me down. Those areas now that I trip and stumble on are areas for growth. And growing is good. Growing is healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's what being vulnerable is all about, right? You have to take a look inward, and you have to have very difficult conversations with yourself and with other people. And you have to shine a light on the things in your life that you can improve, or you can heal, and, bringing in other people and other resources and other tools to help you do that. Right. And I think another important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, growing is incredible. I mean, in all aspects of your life, becoming a frogman was incredible too. You train so hard mentally, physically, on every aspect. Now that I'm out, this is a new area of my life I need to train on, like mental health and fortitude. That's just part of your life, and it should be from the moment you're born and through your whole life. But I think for such a long period of time, people didn't want to talk about it. People didn't want to be vulnerable. People didn't want to address these or speak to other people about them, in fear of like failure and fear of being weak or cast aside. But those areas just room for growth. It's not like you're broken. It's not like you can't fix yourself. It's room for growth. And, it's only good. Only good can come from it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And also that growing and changing doesn't happen overnight, right? And that it is like you mentioned, it's been a 10-year journey for you, a 10-year process. And I think, at least, where I'm at in my life, right? And in my journey, and I'm sure you experienced this as well and still do experience it, but you can be so hard on yourself, right? When there's things that you see in your life that, you're not proud of, or that you want to change. And then that leads to, you're beating yourself up, which in some points is part of the process. But I think what people need to understand, and what I need to understand, and what we all need to understand, is that like growth and change and transformation and all these things, it takes time. And I think that understanding and giving yourself grace and leaning on other people during that time is so very important.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the process is a process, and like you said, you don't change overnight. And some of the stuff that you've buried, like some of the stuff you've got hidden from your subconscious and whatnot, once you start shining light on those critters, man, they could be some big critters. And it might take some while to work through that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you shouldn't skip over it or try to cut corners on some of this stuff, or any of it really, because it's only going to shine or rear its ugly head later in the future. Like, address them all, take your time to work through them and understand it. The more you understand yourself, the better you can grow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, the longer that, like you said, the longer you kind of keep those things hidden and keep them locked away, the bigger that they become, right? And the more vengeance they can come back with. And again, just having grace with yourself and understanding that it's going to take time, right? And that this is a process, and that you'll never become, mental health is a journey with no destination, right? You're always growing and always transforming, but just having grace with yourself throughout that process, I think, is so very important.
Absolutely. I think grace is the perfect word for that. You have to have grace and patience with yourself. Some days are good, some days are awesome, and other days are horrible. You feel like you do one step forward, 3 steps back, and then other days it's 5 steps forward, 1 step back. So it ebbs and flows. And like you said, this is a lifelong process. I mean, life, no matter where you are, what age you are, can throw curveballs, can surprise you with events that are unpleasant or heartbreaking or life changing. So you're going to work on your mental health and strength and fortitude forever as life comes and hits you with the left and right. Like, you got to work through this stuff. You can't bury it, because it'll come back up.
Absolutely. So what are some other things and treatments that you've done for your mental health around these 10-year journey?
So after the psychedelics, I continued normal therapy. And then I did hyperbaric oxygen treatment for my brain. So awesome treatment, right? And it heals up the areas that are no longer getting blood flow. So what they'll do, scan on your brain, and they'll show you the areas that are looks like a huge hole, but it's just no longer firing and it's no longer getting blood flow. So, breathing oxygen at pressure reinvigorates these areas and allows your brain to start firing again, and really heals a lot of those areas. And then last year I did Warrior Expeditions treatment, which is basically a through hike. So I hiked the Continental Divide Trail. And that was, I feel, probably my favorite form of therapy and one of the most lasting forms of therapy. I'm still feeling the effects from that hike today, like, as a legit change in my life. I think using nature as a therapeutic source is incredible, absolutely incredible. So those would be all of the main sources of therapy. And then my own personal therapy stuff I do now is for my mental health is what makes me healthy and happy, right? Like the gym does, reading every day, keeping up, with my religion and going to church. So all these other little things now are a huge part of my life that gives me great joy and benefits for my mental health. It's not just like therapy, right? Or it's not just doing drugs in Mexico that can give you good mental strength or mental health. Like, doing your daily stuff, whatever brings you joy in your daily life, that is a huge, huge aspect. And that will be a huge aspect for the rest of your life. If I shift back to boozing every day, I could spiral really hard, and, more depression, anxiety is going to come. I don't do anything else that's joyful in life. I'm just boozing. But without booze in my life and doing all these other little things that bring me joy, it's so good for my mental health and my overall outlook on life.
Absolutely. What are some things that you're looking forward to continue doing, or new things that you're interested in trying?
As in new stuff?
Yeah, just like treatments, or, just continuing on this journey. What are some things that excite you about it?
So just the potential growth. I want to become the best version of myself that has ever, walked this earth. So the continuation of just seeking more knowledge, seeking more understanding, like, and that means like understanding my subconscious more, understanding the psychology world more, understanding my habits, my values more, and why I do certain things. So that's just my daily growth. I don't have any bigger quote unquote, therapeutic therapies lined up. I think my next one now is going to be try to give back and try to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the next thing in my life that I feel will really help my mental health and help me in the future, is helping other people like me or giving back to other veterans in some form or fashion.
Absolutely. Would you ever try psychedelics again? Or is that a one and done type experience for you?
I think for me, it's a one and done.
Yeah.
It was that heavy that I don't want to experience that again.
Absolutely. I mean, it's crazy though, when people, I think maybe think of healing or things that are out there, like for you, it was that experience changed your life, potentially saved your life. And it was something that you'd never do again because it was like, pretty traumatic. And I think that people don't necessarily understand the amount of, work and pain and, suffering that comes from healing.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to heal and you want to heal some, dark areas of your life, you have to address them. You have to look at them, and you have to be 100% honest with yourself. And it's going to hurt. It's going to suck. I mean, I beat myself up for months and months and months. And sometimes I still do. Sometimes I look back on the person I was, and it gets to me, and I just have to change my mindset quickly and know that I'm on a better path. But it could be really dark and rough after you peel those, layers back. But once you do and shine light on them, you can put them to rest and move forward in life, and you can move forward in a healthy manner.
Absolutely. What advice, going back, you talked about like looking back at those months when you were beating yourself up, what advice would you give to yourself during those times?
I think, you used grace earlier, definitely, more grace on myself, more patience with myself, and truly understanding like, okay, if you're putting in the effort and you want to get better, you want changes, and you're putting in the daily effort, be content and happy with that. Don't push for so much, for so hard, that you again feel like a failure that day because you didn't do enough, or you should have done more, or you're not trying hard enough. Because I think that mindset, I think all military people could fall into that mindset, of, oh, I could have done more today. Oh, I'm such a loser. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Or I'm going to fail if I don't do more. Like, that's counterproductive of doing the work, that you're doing per day. And there's no set amount you need to do, big or small, right, wrong. Like, just concentrate on little sections at a time, and be content with it, be happy with it, give yourself grace. And if you're putting your best foot forward each day, that's enough. Like, that's enough. And again, I said earlier, 1% a day, by the end of the year, that's 365%. You can be a whole new person, just by doing 1%.
Absolutely. Just focusing on the day's work, right? And not worrying about tomorrow. And like you said, not beating yourself up for doing too little, or,
Yeah, it takes time.
Yep.
You can't go from, being a wild frogman partier for a good portion of your life to, this born again Christian who doesn't have any problems anymore. That's not how life works, And the process, though, to go from one to the other, if you take a step back and look at it, it can be really beautiful, and you can learn so much about life, about yourself, and you will grow during that period so much. And then looking back on it now, the transformation you'll make from then until, 6 months, a year, year and a half, two, is just incredible. The changes you'll make are incredible if you're just patient, patient with yourself and give yourself grace.
Absolutely. What's one piece of advice, and it could be very similar to the advice that you would give yourself, but one piece of advice to someone who's in that darkness and in that depression before they shine light on things, just in that dark spot, the point where you at, right, where you couldn't see a way forward, right? You couldn't see a future or what's next. What piece of advice would you give to them?
I would say ask yourself a question, like, is this the path you want to stay on for the rest of your life? Do you want to stay in the darkness for the rest of your life, or the pain, or, the booze and alcohol or drugs or whatnot? Is this the path you want to be on the rest of your life? And then if you can wholeheartedly answer that, with a yes or no, that'll determine your next step. And then from there, you answer that question. And so just take it a step at a time and take it like a question at a time. But you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to know, like, you want change.
Absolutely.
And then I just say, be brave, have the courage to take that next step, whether if you do it on your own, that's fine. Or if you reach out to a friend or seek help, via a counselor or therapist, whatever it is, like, take that next step for your new life. And every day you wake up, you can change your life, or you can put it on a new trajectory. You really can. And you don't have to stay in the dark. You don't have to, be the person that you don't want to be, or be the person, from a year ago. You can change, and the light gets better, and healing helps, and life gets way better.
Absolutely. Well, Travis, thank you so much for your time today, man. Thank you for diving into your experiences, and just, explaining the importance of getting 1% better every day, right? Continuing to take steps, and looking forward to hearing about this next chapter for you, man. Sure. seeing how many people you can help as you continue on this journey of mental health.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. I hope, this shed some light for other people, and they can grow, or, heal or change, or whatever they need to.
Absolutely. Awesome, Travis. God bless, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir.